Hello everybody, I'm back with another video for you today, and kind of going to do the last card reveal video for you. There'll be a few more cards revealed, I think, after this video is out, but since the expansion is so close, I think I'm not going to probably look at those cards. We can just wait to get hands on, of course, and build some, proper decks with them. So, let's get into the last cards, shall we? So, first things first, we've got Maxii Van Dekkar, 6 for 6. Neutral card, deploy, look at your deck in order from top to bottom. You may shuffle your deck, then put a card on the bottom of it. But presumably you don't have to do that, you can just get a nice look at your deck if you want. Pretty interesting card. 6 for 6 these days is not very good. You definitely do want something a bit more powerful than that. 6 provision cards are awkward, I've talked about this already, but if you have a 6 provision card, it kind of has to be on a similar power level to a 7 or 8 provision power card. Just because, in terms of polarization, this card is going to act as a top-end gold rather than a sort of weaker bronze play, typically speaking. So, yeah, you definitely want sort of 7, 8, even maybe 9 points from a 6 provision card these days. So will this card get the value there, and where would it fit? So definitely there's a bit of value in terms of just being able to see if your draws are good. If they're not, you can rearrange that and potentially, find more of your golds that way, or more of your power plays. You can also get rid of a brick card, a card that you definitely don't want to draw, so that can help in theory if you want to play whatever, a Novigradian Justice finisher or whatever, right, with the dwarfs coming out. You can make sure that stuff's at the bottom, so you can thin it out later. Also helps if you're against Nilfgaard, maybe, and we'll talk about some new Nilfgaard cards as well. But maybe they're trying to deck manipulate you and try to take your cards and stuff, and you can throw something to the bottom and dodge, potential thievery from Nilfgaard that they're trying to pull off. So that's potentially a use for it. To be honest, guys, I think this card's kind of similar to Fisher King in terms of it does something. It's definitely better in terms of the stats that you get, and we've got a bit of power creep in some sense coming, and that's what's allowing that to be the case. But yeah, it's similar in terms of, just it provides a function that not a lot of decks are going to probably make use of. And in theory, in certain niche situations, it can be quite powerful, but probably a lot of the time it's just not going to be a very useful effect. It's going to be a bit redundant, and you'd rather use those provisions in a more polarized way, and for a better use, basically. Maybe there'll be some decks that can utilize this. I definitely saw some people thinking that this, being able to rearrange your deck if it's not good is a very powerful ability. I'm not completely sure on that. You can, of course, often just tutor the good cards, and reshuffling is not going to guarantee you anything, so yeah. I mean, I think this card's, it's alright, but I'm not sure I see it being too mainstream. Alright, next up we have Waritt the All-seeing, a Nilfgaard card, 7 for 8, deploy melee, put the highest cost card in your opponent's deck on the top of it, and on ranged row, put the lowest cost card in your opponent's deck on top of it. So this is a very interesting card. This is some more sort of mill and deck switcheroo synergy for Nilfgaard. That seems to be very much what their focus is for this expansion. And honestly, this card kind of ties all of the cards, or a lot of them, that we've seen from Nilfgaard together. Things like the Viper Witcher Mentor, which boosts based on the provision cost of the top unit of the opponent's deck, for example. That could be very powerful with this, in theory, as a few round 1 plays. At least I think that's what the Viper Witcher Mentor does. Pretty sure it does that, right? So yeah, that's quite a nice synergy. You can of course play Cantarella, you can play the Alchemist guy that swaps top cards, or the Fairy Merchant if you wanted to. Vilgefortz and Tibor synergy in theory if you play him on ranged row, although that's often not going to be too great because they can have a high strength, low provision unit. So yeah, I think the main use here is going to be playing him and then playing possibly Viper Witcher Mentors, and then swapping their cards, stealing it for carryover, or taking it immediately with Cantarella if you're going for more of a mill style of gameplay. Question is, can this sort of package carry the the faction. Honestly, like, I see that package being pretty nutty if you could just play this guy, for example, and maybe 2 of the Viper Witcher Alchemists. Maybe you drop Mentors, maybe you do play them. Could see it going either way. I could see that being pretty powerful just as like a very nasty carryover play. If you can play it round 1, you can just, you know, take their best card or force them to play it with a Neuromancer or whatever, which is pretty powerful, I think. If you have the rest of your deck, you know, being strong enough, if you're committing 8 provisions and 5 provisions to do this combo, that's not a whole lot, and you're neutralizing one of their better cards. Maybe the rest of your deck is scenario-based, or poisons, or whatever Nilfgaard's, you know, best way to get points is, and then you can potentially maneuver in that game and get some nice value from that carryover and win the game as a result. So I do think this card is good, and I do think it would probably see play, actually. I do think that's, in whatever form. It might just be in mill meme decks, or it might be in these sort of, what's the word? Assimilate, and, you know, stealing the opponent's cards and whatnot. Could see that archetype being, maybe it'll actually be quite decent with this sort of support that's been added. And there might even be more Nilfgaard cards. I'm not sure if we've seen them all, but yeah. Nilfgaard's in a bit of a weird spot. It seems like it's going to be quite memey and, you know, just messing with the opponent's stuff, just being a douchebag and not really having many points of its own. But maybe people will find a way to make that work with Viper Witcher Mentors or whatever else. And you might just have these sort of brick the opponent's deck archetypes being a thing, where they just put a bunch of crap on your deck and you're just drawing bronzes forever. In that case, if they're doing that, it might be quite good to play Maxii and reshuffle all that nonsense away. So that's honestly the main use of this, I think, is to counter Nilfgaard. But I'm not sure Nilfgaard will be that powerful to warrant playing this for that reason. But yeah, pretty interesting card, pretty powerful. I don't know, I'm kind of torn. Do I like the approach that they're taking with Nilfgaard or not? I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. Next we've got Snowdrop. Pretty interesting neutral card. 2 for 8, so obviously not very good. And Zeal. Order, draw 2 cards, then shuffle 2 cards back to your deck, and whenever you draw a card, boost self by 2. Interesting effect. So effectively, so I'm assuming this only boosts by 2, right, when you draw those 2 cards from the order effect, because it's 1 instance of drawing cards. If it boosts twice, it would be a lot better, right? It would be a 6 for 8 immediately with engine value. I'm not sure how that will actually work. I would assume it's a 4 for 8 with the engine value, and of course this deck shuffle effect. So is this actually any good? I mean, how often do decks really draw cards? I suppose the only way you would play this is probably in some kind of Nilfgaard deck with, like, you know, Morvran Vorhis, and a fan, and, you know, deck manipulation Nilfgaard is where this card could be played, I suppose. Maybe, yeah, that seems to be the main time you're drawing cards with, like, Viper Witcher Alchemist and that leader ability and stuff. Yeah, I'm not really sure I see this card being very good. It seems a bit, yeah. Especially if it's only 4 when it comes down. If it's a 4 for 8 when it comes down, I guess you can get it to 6 for 8 with a Morvran leader ability. But can you even then draw that many more cards? With Matter, maybe? I don't know, I'm not really seeing the synergies, but maybe I'm just not aware of the cards that draw other cards, because they're not very commonly played. But yeah, my verdict is this is kind of bad. Typically these effects that are like fixing your hand aren't really needed in the current game. Yeah, like most decks are consistent enough that playing this kind of a card as well as your consistency card's gonna take the power level of your deck a bit too down. So I think this card's just not too great. Let's go next. Got Selective Mutation. It's a 6 provision special neutral card, and it draws a card with Adrenaline of your choice. Then shuffle back a card from your hand to your deck and spawn a Witcher student on each row. Interesting card. So basically a 4 for 6. This is interestingly quite good support for the Northern Realms Witcher, which is funny. The Griffin Adept, right? You can of course get those Witcher students, transform them to 4 strength, get a few extra points. So that's interesting. Drawing a unit with Adrenaline and then shuffling a card from your hand to your deck. Well, what is going on with that? It's a 4 for 6, you get 4 for 6, and then you get, again, sort of a hand-fixing type effect. It's not really a tutor. I mean, it kind of is a tutor, but it's more like a hand-fixer, I suppose, because you have to swap out one of your other cards. So it's not quite as good as a tutor effect. Is this card any good? I mean, you have to play a 4 for 6, which is pretty horribly bad, right? In order to get that effect, so I think this is just not very playable. Yeah. I suppose if you're going a Mega Witcher synergy deck, in the theory, getting those extra couple of Witchers might get you some bonus value. You could maybe play it in the Northern Realms and have those Griffin guys going. But yeah, I'm not really seeing this one. I think if you're a deck that really needs a particular Adrenaline card, you'd probably just rather play an Oneiromancy or a Royal Decree, or, you know, probably not, but yeah, there's other cards that will get you there. Maybe they're going to nerf Oneiromancy, and as a result, it might make sense to run other tutors instead. I don't know. I'm not really thinking this card will be too good. It seems a bit weak. Next we've got Idarran of Uliva. Oh, this card is spicy. 6 for 8 legendary neutral. The first time you spawn a unit each turn, spawn a 1 power copy of it on this row, then give it doomed. Whoa! This is like another Caranthea for every faction, effectively, kind of. If you have a Caranthea effect already, you get another one. This, I think, guys, this is why they removed the 2 play per turn leaders, because they didn't want people to just abuse all sorts of crazy stuff like Caranthea into Idarran. That's a pretty nutty combo, right? You can spawn a big powerful unit with Caranthea and then get another one of those. So this basically puts Kikimor Queen back on the menu, guys, if you think about it. You can play this guy. As long as he sticks around on the board, you can then go for a Caranthea, spawn 2 Kikimor Queens. You could then even go into Force of Nature as your leader and get an extra Thrive boost. This card is honestly a very nice thing to have in the game. I think it's going to basically bring back some of the more interesting, memey, but fun, powerful archetypes like Kikimor Queen. You can do this with Koshchi if you wanted to, or any other. I mean, think of how many powerful golds there are that you could just copy with that Caranthea combo in monsters. Not to mention a Dahlia in Northern Realms with engines, spawning those guys. There's so many possible combos here. You could just play this in swarm decks and just get 1 point per turn engine. That's probably the least useful effect of this card, is just playing it in a swarm spawn deck. You'd probably rather play this with an Adalia or a Caranthea or something that can spawn like a really powerful unit, so you can actually copy that. Maybe in Revenant decks in Northern Realms, you can get multiple Revenants and just go crazy with that. Crazy card. Really, really powerful, I think. Maybe not like in mainstream decks, but definitely going to promote some more niche archetypes and be a linchpin for those decks, I think. And one thing to note here is Blue Stripe Scout spawns a copy of a unit at the bottom of your deck. So will this work with Blue Stripes? It does give the unit doomed, so if you copy a commander, you'll get a 1 power copy of it, maybe. Not sure if it works like that, but if you do, and you can then purify the doomed, holy moly, commando deck, it just got even better. Which is crazy, because I think that deck's already looking really good with Erland, and, you know, just already was pretty powerful. If you've watched my other videos on Commando, it's already a pretty good deck, and if they're getting more support with, you know, that and Cohen, oh, Cohen's going to be, oh my god, the Commando decks you can make on this patch are going to be so nutty. If this worked with that, you could just double the amount, effectively, of Commandos you have, which, that could just be absolutely bonkers. Like, we might see, like, literal whole rows of Commandos popping out the deck, if you can set that all up. Not sure if that's going to happen, but it's worth thinking about, and it would be very, very funny if it is the case. But yeah, loving this card. This is a real... I'm glad there are like some very interesting, crazy, potentially game-breaking effects. You know, this is the kind of card that people will probably complain about if it's too strong, because they'll be like, what the heck? Dude, you can't just... This is broken. You can spawn multiple... I don't know. Is anyone going to complain about Kikimor Queen being back? Probably not. Let's go to the last card, shall we? Salamandra Mage. 5 for 5 syndicate card. 5 for 5 Syndicate card. Tribute 4, damage 3 adjacent enemy units by 2. It's a Salamandra unit, that might be relevant for some cards in the expansion. And Adrenaline 5, whenever you pay a tribute ability, gain 1 coin. This card is pretty, I think this is pretty good. It's a difficult one because Syndicate has so many nice bronzes. You typically just playing like Poison Package or Engine Value, or the spenders that you of course need. In some way, having tribute cards is having, you know, like having spenders. That's not something that we've seen too much of in Syndicate. They often don't run tribute, you know, units just because it's a lot less reliable than, you know, just a vanilla spender with the, of course, fee ability. But yeah, here this can come down as effectively a 7 for 5 if you pay that tribute and hit all 3 units for 2. So you've already got a 7 for 5. If you have 5 cards in hand for this Adrenaline effect, then you'll get 1 coin from that. So it's already an 8 for 5 if you play it a bit later in the round, which you probably will because that's when they'll have units. So then you've already got an 8 for 5 unit with potential to get more if you pay more tributes, play more tributes, get more coins. So that's pretty interesting, honestly, guys. An 8 for 5 with engine potential. Of course, it's quite conditional. That's going to be the main downside. Are there really going to be 3 units that you can deal 2 damage to at an early enough point in the round to get engine value from this? That's kind of the question. But I mean, if you take it on just the raw points you get from this, an 11-point card, 12 if you count the coin, it's quite a scary amount of points for a 5 provision card to be able to output. Think about playing this in off the books, maybe with Fallen Regular. I think off the books is looking pretty nice, right? If you can build a bit of a tribute deck. Yeah, maybe there's not enough tribute cards for that to really work and be super great, but this card definitely looks playable. Looks playable. We'll see exactly what form is that playability. Maybe it's in like Salamandra heavy, self-poison. Potentially it's in like a tribute heavy deck with Fallen Railer. I don't know. But I think it's a good bronze. Nice one to finish up with. So there we go, guys. That's all the cards. There'll be a couple more, but as I said, I'm not going to reveal them at this point. It's a bit too close to the expansion, I think, to be worth doing. But yeah, let me know what you think. I'm really excited for Idarran. This is going to enable so many wacky strategies. I'm just glad there's more space in the game now, right? That they're introducing some of these crazier effects, which is nice to see after we got some of that space shrunk before. Anyhow, subscribe if you enjoyed, guys. Make sure to hit the like button as well, or dislike if you didn't like it. And yeah, expansion very soon. Couple of days now. I'm ready. I've been theory crafting what I want to play. Not super seriously, but you know, we'll jump in. If you want to check out my stream, you can do that in the description. I'll be playing over there when the expansion drops, and we'll get hands-on with all the new cards, build some new decks, you know, try to figure out what's super broken and what's super fun as well. So, thanks a lot for watching, guys. Have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.